How did Darth Vader sleep? After Vader was burnt medium rare on Mustafar, his new suit would come with a life support system. However, the downfall of this life support system is that needles would have to be injected into his flesh in order to send data. This created Vader to be in a constant pain while in his suit, which is why we see him enter his Bacta tank at times. The Bacta tank allowed him to recover and heal any injuries he had. The only way Vader could ever fall asleep was if he was in his suit, and because of the needles constantly being injected into him, he rarely ever slept. If there was a rare occasion that he did, he would soon be awoken right after by visions, sounds, and pains, most of which included Obi-Wan or Padme. How long was Darth Vader's surgery? After Vader became a burnt hamburger on Mustafar, he was then brought by Palpatine to have surgery for his new suit. However, when you watch the movie, you'd think he was only there for a few hours, but crazy enough, it was a lot longer than that. When Palpatine saw how bad Vader was injured, he decided to use all of his wealth and his resources to call for some of the most skilled doctors in the galaxy. Not only this, but he also used old recycled materials to help build his suit, which took little to no time to get and would speed up the process of the surgery. However, despite all these things, it's said that it took several days before Vader's surgery was complete. How did Darth Vader use the toilet? One question us as Star Wars fans may have wondered before is how Darth Vader could drop one out of his exit gate. Well, after his burns on Mustafar, you would think it would be impossible, but there was actually one way he was able to do this. With all the suit functions that Vader had, there was one component that was actually a recycler for any type of liquid or solid foods. As gross as it may sound, whenever Vader did decide to drop one, it would basically be recycled back into nutrients for him to eat. He would then eat through tubes in his suit, and the process would then constantly repeat itself. However, there was one positive that came out of this. Because he would eventually receive no more nutritional benefits from his poop, it could allow him to go a lot longer without eating food compared to that of a normal human. Safe to say, however, Vader would not enjoy Taco Bell. Why does Darth Vader wear a cape? Although Darth Vader was known as one of the most terrifying Sith Lords, have you ever wondered to why he wore a cape? Well, there's actually a deeper reason behind this besides just looking cool. Vader's cape was made out of an armored material of what was called armor weave, which protected him from both acid jets and even fire. Because of this, he had the freedom to enter dangerous environments without worrying about how his suit would react to it. Not only this, but because it was such a strong material, it was even capable of dissipating blaster bolts and even resisting lightsaber strikes. However, despite all its features, it's safe to say that Vader enjoyed fighting in style. Why did Palpatine force Vader to be awake during his surgery? After Vader was burnt on Mustafar, Palpatine expressed extreme disappointment in his loss to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Although he decided to let Vader live, he made the choice to punish him for his defeat. Once they arrived on Coruscant, Palpatine ordered the medical droids to not provide him with an anesthetic and instead to keep him alive throughout the entire surgery. He did this so Vader would feel every ounce of pain in his flesh, and as a result of it, he would end up establishing a deeper connection to the dark side of the Force. This led to Vader being conscious for every moment of the surgery and constantly being reminded to never fail again. Why didn't Darth Vader heal his own injuries? Although Vader was grilled like steak on Mustafar, have you ever wondered to why he didn't just use the Force to heal his own injuries? Well, he actually tried to. Shortly after his duel against Luke Skywalker on Cloud City, Vader entered his meditation chamber and tried to use the Force in an attempt to heal his own wounds. As he then channeled his inner rage within the dark side, it actually started to work, and after a few minutes, he started to see his injuries heal. However, this wouldn't last for long. After seeing his wounds heal, Vader started to feel joy inside, which then caused the healing process to be interrupted since he completely lost his dark side focus. This then proved that no matter how hard he tried, there was always a little bit of Anakin always left in him. How long could Vader survive without a suit? Ever since Vader was burnt well done on Mustafar, his new suit came with a life support system. However, the downfall of this life support system is that it created Vader to rely on his suit, and more specifically, his mask, and this is what kept him alive. If Vader were to remove his mask, he would ultimately suffocate and die within minutes, but there was one way he could survive without it. Unlike a light side user, a dark side user can channel their inner hatred with the dark side and use that in order to survive. If the user can fully consume themselves without losing focus, they can live through injuries or even lightsaber stabs. Depending how long Vader could keep his focus for is how long he could ultimately survive. What was the most painful part of Darth Vader's suit? After his injuries on Mustafar, Vader's suit was designed by his master, Darth Sidious, to cause him much pain so that he would have a stronger connection to the dark side of the Force. However, there was one part of his suit that was arguably the most painful for him, his mask. The reason for this was because Vader's mask wasn't just something ordinary. His mask had pins and needles that would be injected right into his skin. They would then be in every single corner of his face, including the top of his skull. Just like the rest of his suit, these needles would then transmit data and all work together to keep his life support system operating. After having to suffer through this for over 20 years, we can only assume that this was a huge reason why Vader was always in a cranky mood. How did Darth Vader get his white suit? In the Star Wars Infinity's comic series, we learn of the time that Vader obtained a white suit. However, there's a twist. Very similar to Marvel's What If series, in this comic, one event changes which leads to the rest of the timeline to become altered. In this case, we learn of what happens in Return of the Jedi. As C-3PO and Leia were in Jabba's palace, Jabba actually knocks over 3PO, which leads to an entire brawl in his palace. This one event would then lead Vader to eventually capturing Luke. However, not just Luke, but Leia as well. As we saw in the film, Luke and Vader would then duel against one another, but instead of Vader dying, he would only lose an arm and actually in fact survive their duel. Following their fight, Vader then collapsed to his knees in front of both of his children, when meanwhile Palpatine would find a way to escape. As Luke and Leia then carried their father aboard the Millennium Falcon, they then eventually met with the rest of the rebels, where they would plan out their new goal, to find and hunt down Emperor Palpatine. However, to help them in their cause, Vader would then appear in an all-white suit, signifying his return as Anakin Skywalker. Why did Darth Vader wear red lenses? Compared to the original trilogy, Vader wore red lenses in recent appearances, such as in Rogue One and Rebels. But why? Well, as for the in-universe explanation, this comes down to Vader constantly having his suit replaced. After his encounter against Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series, as well as against Ahsoka in Rebels, Vader would constantly have damages to his suit that he would have to replace. In Revenge of the Sith, we actually see an up-close look at these lenses, and we can see that it was always in fact red. Not only this, but there are also brief moments in A New Hope where the red color is actually noticeable. So because he's always had them, we can only assume that the red color is more visible with new and replaced lenses. Can Darth Vader eat snacks? One common question that many fans wonder is if Vader could actually eat snacks. Well, there is actually an answer to this, and it's a little weird. When Vader was in his suit, the only way he could eat was if he sipped out of a straw that came from tubes that connected throughout his body. Unfortunately, the little bits of food that he did eat would normally be nutrients from paste, which in his eyes tasted absolutely disgusting. However, there was actually one way that he could eat snacks he enjoyed, and that was if he was in his meditation chamber. While in his chamber, Vader could eat some of the foods that he wanted as long as he took off his helmet. Did Darth Vader blame Palpatine for his injuries? Although we all know that Vader was cooked like medium rare steak on Mustafar, have you ever wondered as to who he blamed for all of his suffering? Well, just 4 weeks after he entered his new suit, Vader shared his true thoughts on this. He told himself that he wanted to blame Palpatine for everything, since maybe it was his plan all along to have him enter this prison of a suit. However, then he had second thoughts, and instead of Palpatine, he then put the blame on both Padme and Obi-Wan. In his eyes, his wife and his best friend were the ones who betrayed him, and that they were way too blind to see that he would have brought peace to the galaxy. He ultimately believed that if they only listened, then maybe all of this could have been prevented. Why does Darth Vader use a Bacta tank? Although we all know that Vader spent a lot of time in his Bacta tank, have you ever wondered why he even used it? Well, while many think that it was to heal his own injuries, crazy enough it actually wasn't. The point of a Bacta tank wasn't to fully repair someone's wounds, but instead it was to only speed up the healing process. However, because Vader's injuries from Mustafar were so severe, the Bacta tank basically did nothing for him. Because of this, he knew he would never see improvements, so instead he just used the tank to meditate and to relax. This would allow him to free himself from his suit and to escape all the pain that he was going through. Why didn't Darth Vader ever upgrade his suit? One question that many fans wonder is why Vader never chose to upgrade his suit. Considering that his suit not only created him to be slow and clunky, but also caused him to suffer in pain constantly, it would only make sense for him to upgrade it, right? Well, there's actually two reasons to why he never did. The first was the risk of his death. Because Vader couldn't go long without his life support system, if he were to ever have surgery for a new suit, there would be a high chance he could die in the process. As you could imagine, that wasn't a risk he was willing to take. The second reason was because of his connection to the dark side. While in his suit, Vader would suffer through immense pain, as he had thousands of microneedles always being injected into him. However, surprisingly, over time he actually started to embrace the pain, as it would only deepen his connection to the dark side. So although Vader would have gained more speed and physical strength from a new suit, he would have also risked losing a huge identity of who he has become. If you enjoyed this lore compilation about Vader and you want to learn more about Anakin's best stories, then make sure to click the video in the middle of the screen right here.